Alex asked us to speak for a few minutes about what kind of impact social media, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and the internet at large has had on our work. I'm on Facebook, so I'll get to that in a moment. I'm not on Twitter or Tumblr, so I can't say anything about either of those really, but as far as the impact that the internet at large has had on my work, I'm prepared to say a few words. I'll start with an anecdote. My 7-year-old daughter has a subscription to Chop Chop, which is a food and nutrition magazine geared towards kids and their families. While thumbing through it recently, I came across a sort of a sidebar with some bullet points about the habits of bees. I've always had an affinity for bees, and I love honey, and I love to walk through herb gardens like the ones up at the cloisters, where there are tons of bees in the summer sucking nectars from the heliotropes in the mints and whatnot, buzzing all around us like little cartoon helicopters with so much work to do they don't pay any attention to you or to what you're doing. So, thumbing through Chop Chop, I came across the following fun facts. One, to make a pound of honey, and I remember that they measured it by weight that way, to make a pound of honey, the average colony of bees has to visit approximately 2 million flowers. And two, to make that same pound of honey, a colony of bees has to fly collectively approximately 50,000 miles. Okay, so this was interesting enough already, right? But it's really the next fact that knocked the wind out of me, especially in the wake of these more or less unfathomably massive figures. I can't even imagine 2 million flowers and 50,000 miles. That's literally more than 1/5 of the way to the moon. But what really did it to me, what really did me in, was this, the fact that 3, the average worker bee in the whole of its lifetime produces approximately 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. Yeah, 1/12 of a teaspoon. This pretty much destroyed me. I mean, I love honey, as I said, and it mortified me to think that I could easily consume the life work of a dozen bees without even thinking about it. I could just thoughtlessly swirl it into my hot tea, not that I really drink tea all that often, but when I do, it's like the life work of 24 bees at least that I squeeze into it, right? So I don't know how much honey I thought an average bee made in its lifetime, but I'm sure I didn't think it was so heartbreakingly little. And I was sitting there on a mint green wingback chair, and I felt all this recalculation going on in my head, what with the 2 million flowers and the 1/5 of the way to the moon, and all this regret for my former thoughtlessness and the sorrow intermixed with admiration and wonder and gratitude. So, you know, when I get that kind of feeling or that complex of feelings, that usually means that I'll end up writing a poem about it or about whatever provoked that feeling, and whether that be a full-blown fact that did this to me, or else just a mere factoid, or else a phrase or even an image that I respond to for whatever reason. When something stops me in my tracks that way, or even just resonates strongly in me, it usually means that it brings together or tugs on at least a few of my psychic threads. Now, admittedly, this has nothing to do with the internet directly. Since it has to do with reading an actual print magazine, it might actually be anti-internet. But I don't think so, because whether it comes in the form of a link I follow on Facebook or a message in my inbox or a news article or an academic paper on JSTOR, the internet is obviously so unfathomably full of information it rivals the bee's 2 million flowers, only each of them leads to another 2 million flowers, and each of those flowers leads to another 2 million. So here's the big revelation. Access to all this information has had an impact on my writing. I come into contact with more flowers than I used to, much more so than when I lived merely in print culture. Now, of course, the risk, or at least the fear, is that I'll become so deadened by the vast, indiscriminate extent of it that I'll end up having the same half-mast, oh, okay, sure, I guess, whatever, response to pretty much everything I encounter. Maybe I'll be more accepting, but I'll also be more complacent, inert, and stupid. So far, I don't think it's happened yet, though. Like, for example, back when we underwent Supermoon 2012, you'll remember it was May 6th, and that, in the words of Wikipedia, a supermoon is the coincidence of a full moon or a new moon with the closest approach of the moon makes to the Earth on its elliptical orbit, resulting in the largest apparent size of the moon's disk as seen from the Earth. The technical name is the perigee syzygy of the Earth-Moon-Sun system. You remember? Well, when someone first posted something on Facebook about the supermoon, I followed a link that brought me to a story on space.com about how the moon is moving away from the Earth at a rate of 1.5 or 1.6 inches per year, and it has been from the beginning. It's like Rilke in the 10th Duino elegy, and so we live, forever taking leave. And a lot of poets, and like a lot of poets, I too love the moon as much as I do bees, and I trick myself into thinking I have a special relationship to it, or really to both. So when I found out that the moon has always been gradually drifting away, like it's walking backwards and towards the door, nice and slow, like it's hoping I don't notice, and that I don't get all startled, and I try not to take it personally, but when I found out, I did. I did take it personally. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that I took it personally. It's an embarrassment that the moon is moving away from us, like it can't stand us. We keep trying to get closer to it, and it keeps backing away. And the fact that this departure will have, eventually, really disastrous effects on the planet, millions of years from now, granted, really shouldn't make me feel like a little bit defeated already. But it does, and it shouldn't make me feel like, oh, why bother? But it kind of did. And the truth is, of course, it will have disastrous effects on the moon itself as well. So, I mean, it's far off in the future. Don't worry. But also, this all left me sort of like in a state of awe, too. So I ended up writing a poem that incorporated this heartbreaking fact, although it took me something like 4 months to let it ferment and cluster with other facts and feelings and matters of interest, including lyrics from a favorite Whitesnake song I kept listening to on Spotify or YouTube, and some facts about the town of Secaucus and the origin of its name, all of which I found on the sort of Town of Secaucus website, plus descriptions of a couple of Bruegel paintings, both of which I was able to find online in beautiful sort of highly pixelated reproductions. And now online, too, is the poem, thanks to the Academy's Hannah Andrews. So now, of course, the risk, or at least the fear is for me, that this kind of practice will, in the end, amount to an annoying and superficial kind of magpie mashup production, a seeking about and an amalgamating of whatever flashes or catches my eye, like a cheap-ass wiki poetics that's nothing better than a just barely literary form of compulsive shopping, the whole of everything flattening out into a foil of constant chatter instead of deepening into a search for what might actually still matter. And the truth is, I don't feel cheated or duped or threatened enough by life yet, or by literature, to want to do that to it, or not that exactly.